I am our main contact for agents when it comes to this partnership. And certainly we'll be going over some of the topics that Amy mentioned there. In terms of the main areas that I'd like to cover today, looking at why Western, so some key facts about our university, looking into admission requirements, how to apply on the Ontario University Application Centre, what it looks like to submit documents to Western, what it looks like when a student receives an offer, and some additional resources that may be helpful for you as well. So to start off, in terms of why Western, let's start off with why Canada. So Western is located in Canada, and Canada is known for its rich cultural diversity. About 25% of people living in Canada are actually born outside the country, meaning that there is a lot of rich diversity within Canada. Many students are looking for work opportunities, and the ability to work on or off campus while a student studies is a possibility when you're studying within Canada. It allows the student to build experience and prepare for the workforce. When they finish their studies, they're also eligible for a 3-year postgraduate work permit, which allows them to stay in the country, gain experience, and work their way towards citizenship if that's something of interest. A few of these facts on the screen were already mentioned, but we do rank in the top 1% of universities in the world and have one of the most beautiful campuses in Canada. We also rank 43rd worldwide in graduate employability. So certainly ensuring that our graduates are employed is an important part of the Western experience. We are a large size institution with over 40,000 students from 128 countries around the world. We're located in London, Ontario. London is about a 2-hour drive from Toronto and a 2-hour drive from the US Detroit border. We're the major city within southwestern Ontario and pretty centrally located. You can get to London by bus, train, plane. We do have an international airport with many connections to the Toronto Pearson Airport daily as well. London itself is considered a large size city. We have just under 400,000 people, and 10% of the population is actually Western students. London's the region's economic, entertainment, and cultural hub. And there's lots of things going on for students specifically. So whether that be events, concerts, restaurants, activities, really catered towards that student population. The nice thing about London is it's kind of a mix between a big city, but also still feels like a smaller town. We have over 200 parks and green spaces, so it really is a nice mixture between the outdoors and that big city experience at a more affordable price point. So that situates where London or where Western's located, but let's look a little bit more at Western specifically. I want to point out 6 key things about Western University: our unique programs and academic choices, experiential learning opportunities, our diverse and satisfied student body, our resident system, the student life and supports that we offer, as well as our campus environment. Let's start off with programs. Western has over 400 undergraduate programs, which is a lot of choice. But for first year, we offer a common first year. So a student only needs to select the faculty level to apply to. They don't need to decide their major until the end of their first year of study. We offer a modular degree structure, which means it's really easy to mix and match different degree areas. So say a student's interested in English in the Faculty of Arts and biology in the Faculty of Science. They could easily mix and match through double majors, major and minor, and so on. In terms of the programs that a student can apply to directly from high school, we offer the following choices. So these are the faculty or direct entry programs. We have arts, music and media, science, medical science and engineering, kinesiology, health science and nursing, social science, And within that, our Management and Organizational Studies program, which is one of the options to study business at Western. The other option to study business is our Ivey Business School, but that's a program that does not start until year 3 of university. A student can study anything they want for their first 2 years and then progress into Ivey Business later on. With the exception of nursing, all of our programs admit a wide number of international students. Nursing is the only one that is restricted and has limited seats available. No matter what program a student chooses, all programs have the opportunity for them to gain work experience through some form of experiential learning. That could be internships or co-ops. That could be an international exchange or study abroad. We have an entrepreneurship opportunities and more. All programs have some form of internship, co-op, or practicum. Internships range in time anywhere between 4 to 16 months, and over 4,700 students participated in these experiences last year. So certainly each year, students are choosing to take part in these opportunities outside of the classroom. Our student body is large. As I mentioned, we have 40,000 students from 128 countries, but our students are very successful and satisfied. Our first to second year retention rate is 93.6%. We have one of the highest entrance averages in Ontario and graduation rates that are 10% above the Ontario system. 92% of our graduates are employed within 6 months of graduation, reaffirming that employability is a really important factor at Western. For students who are looking to live on campus, we do have a top-ranked resident system. We have 3 different styles: traditional, suite, and hybrid, all of them offering the same amenities and all within walking distance of classes. Students are guaranteed residence if they're coming directly from high school, and they receive an offer by mid-May. So it's important to apply on time, apply early to ensure that they receive this spot. We do find that students who live in residence perform academically better in first year, typically due to the academic and programming support that we offer through our residents directly. In terms of additional student life and supports, we have over 200 clubs that students can join, so lots of different ways to get involved. For entrepreneurship, we have our Morissette Institute, which provides opportunities such as coaching, an incubator, an accelerator, seed funding, and more. We have leadership opportunities, whether that be through a leadership position in a club or through workshops and supports that we offer. For academic support, we have our academic counseling, writing support, learning strategy workshops, and more. We also have an on-campus student healthcare clinic to care for our students' mental and physical health needs and promote their wellness so that they can thrive. For international students specifically, we have our International and Exchange Student Center that hosts numerous events each year. They have matching programs with our match students with an upper year mentor to be able to help them with the adjustment to first year. And they host programming and workshops all throughout the year. The final point I want to mention about Western is our beautiful campus. We do have a self-contained campus, meaning once you step foot across the bridge, all the buildings are all directly together, not spread across the city. It almost operates like a mini city itself. It has everything from a grocery store, pharmacy, even a movie theater, our university hospital, all right on campus. All of this comes together to create the Western community. It's a diverse and welcoming place for all students, and we want to ensure students are not only receiving a top quality academic education, but that they're experiencing all of those opportunities outside the classroom and growing as a person. We want students to find small communities within Western, as well as feel part of the larger community itself. That gives you a bit of an overview in terms of what Western is like. Now I want to change focus on the admission requirements, breaking it down into 4 main stages. What you need to do to prepare to apply, how to apply, what to do after that application is submitted and how to submit documents, and then what it looks like when a student receives an offer. So let's start off with the preparation stage. These are our minimum entrance standards for the past application cycle. Our averages range from about low to mid 80s, all the way up to low to mid 90s. Arts, music, media, those types of programs are going to be on the lower 80s, whereas programs such as medical science, engineering, business, all of those tend to fall towards that upper range. This is a guideline, not a guarantee, as it's based on the applicant pool each year. So it will depend on who applies this year in terms of what the averages required are. When starting to look at the admission requirements, the best place to start is our website here, welcome.uwo.ca/requirements. In the dropdown, there's the choice of what is your most recent curriculum. You can select the country or the curriculum that the student is studying to be able to pull up a full list of requirements. As I mentioned, you can see all of the countries around the world are listed, so you can easily find the curriculum that you're looking to counsel on. For example, if you were to open up Vietnam, you would see all of the different requirements that exist, saying that we require year 10, 11, and 12 results, and so on. It'll say if proof of English language is typically required. It'll have requirements for the program. For example, a program might have required courses such as biology, or it might have recommended courses where a student doesn't necessarily need that specific course for admission, but it's strongly encouraged because it will help them in that first year. In terms of English language requirements, typically this is required if a student's first language is not English and or if they have not been studying in an English medium school for at least 4 years. These are the different proficiency tests that we accept. New this year, or again this year, we are accepting Duolingo. That's solely for students to be able to have more options to complete tests at home in light of the pandemic situation. So in terms of next year, you do want to just make sure to check whether we would accept that again. For all of our programs, the test scores that are required are the same, except for nursing. Nursing is the only one that requires higher scores than these minimums listed. In terms of submitting a test, we accept several different tests as shown. We encourage students to write a test at the earliest possible date and at the latest before March 2022. Tests completed before January 1st of 2020 will not be accepted. And you can review those minimum scores and how to submit it on the previous slide. If a student's asked for English and you feel they should be exempted from that requirement, we do have an English language proficiency waiver process. If the student has attended secondary school for 4 years and taken that studies in English on a full-time basis, their classes were taught in English, they took academic courses, and they did not take English second language courses, they can be eligible for a waiver. I've included the waiver information to send an email to our team in admissions. It would basically require a school letter on letterhead that attests to the number of years that student has been studying at that institution in English. Some additional notes for English proficiency. Test scores are uploaded to our system typically once a week electronically. So when test scores are sent, if you're not seeing them as marked as received, we typically say it can take anywhere up to 10 business days. So not to be alarmed if that's not showing as received quite yet. I also want to point out our English Boost program. So this is through our Western English Language Center. For students who are slightly below those scores on the previous slide, they can be considered for our 9-week English program that runs starting in July before a student would start full-time in September. It allows them to get that boost in one of those subject areas or scores that they might fall below on. With the exception of writing, other scores can be below, but writing always needs to meet our minimums. There's no specific application for boost. Students are automatically considered if they apply and their scores are slightly below. It would be a condition of their offer letter. We do have English language pathway programs for students who might fall below those requirements. In terms of the Western English Language Center, that's the one run through our Western office, but we do accept a few others. For WELC, the program run through Western, it offers language training anywhere from 4 to 16 months, depending on the level the student comes in at. It has intakes in September, January, and May, as well as conditional and ESL only options. I've included the information on how to apply, as you are able to apply directly through the WELC portal, which differs from the information I'll proceed with for direct applications. So I mentioned how to find admission requirements, proof of English proficiency, and many of our programs are going to be primarily grades-based. However, there are a few programs that may require supplemental forms. Those are listed here and typically are more hands-on programs, such as music, fine arts, and so on. We also have our programs for high-achieving students. These are programs that allow students to be part of a small cohort, have more research opportunities, mentorship, be paired with a professor, and these require supplemental forms that are due anywhere between February and April. I also want to point out our engineering optional Connect profile form, and you can see there all of the various dates listed from January through April as to when these forms may be due. Another common form that's required is our Ivey Advanced Entry Opportunity, otherwise known as AEO. For students who are interested in applying for our Ivey Business School, which starts in year 3 of university, they're able to be considered from high school to save their spot in year 3. It requires strong academics, looking for a 93% average or higher, completion of a mathematics course for university-bound students, and looks at leadership and involvement in extracurriculars. For students who apply for this option, they can study any program they want for their first 2 years, and this would save their spot for year 3 in the Ivey program. The steps to apply are: number 1, to apply for the program they want to study for their first 2 years on the OUAC website, which I'll show you in a moment, and to check the Ivey AEO box on that application. Then you would go to the Ivey website to fill out the supplemental form asking about extracurriculars and involvement. The deadline for this form is January 13th. The final 2 forms I want to point out are both optional for all students. We have our special consideration profile, and we have our extraordinary extracurricular profile. The first one is for extenuating circumstances that may have affected a student's grades. And the second is if a student is very involved with extracurriculars and they want us to take those into consideration. Either of these forms are completely optional and are due by March 1st if a student wants to submit them. The final section here is listing all of the deadlines for various forms, applications, and so on. The ones that I want to point out are, first of all, the early consideration deadline for 105 applicants. Our international applicants are considered 105 category. So you want to make sure to encourage all students to apply by March 1st, and if possible, to submit all documents by March 1st. Another important deadline is February 14th. This is the deadline for our National Scholarship Program. Part of this program is our International President's Entrance Scholarship. This is our highest valued scholarship at 50,000 Canadian. So if a student is interested in applying for this option, just note that deadline is earlier. Now we'll switch to how to actually submit the application. Applications to Western and to all Ontario universities can be submitted through the Ontario Universities Application Centre, known as OUAC. OUAC does have extensive resources to show you how to create an account, how to look up programs, submit an application, and so on. So I've just included these resources here. The main steps, the first is to create an account. As I mentioned, international applicants are considered 105 applicants. So that is the category that you would want to use. When creating an account, it's important that the email address that you use, this student will be able to access, as all communication from Western will go to that application email address. In terms of the information that it asks for, it will ask for current status in Canada. And it's important to note that no documentation except citizenship documents are collected through this portal. Any transcripts or forms that we need are collected after on the Western portal. The only thing that's required here is to fill out the academic background, submit the program choices, and submit the application that would forward it to Western. When you apply, you automatically get 3 choices. Those could be for a base fee. That could be 3 choices at Western, or that could be 1 choice at Western and 1 choice at 2 other universities. You can pay for additional choices, but just knowing that a student gets a minimum of 3 to start. There is a unique program code option that allows you to add programs quickly to the application. So these are the different OUAC codes that if you type those in that box, it will automatically pull up the Western choice for that specific program. So these are all of the different programs or faculty levels that a student could apply to for that first year. Some other important notes: Western does not offer a January intake. Our only full-time intake is in September. We do offer a part-time intake in May that a student could indicate they want to start in, but it is solely part-time. Applications each year open in October for the following September, so applications are now open. We do not do alternate offers. So what that means is that if a student applies for medical science, which is our most competitive, we would not offer them science unless that student also applied for science. They want to apply for each program option that they're interested in. If they're eligible for all 3, then we would admit them to all 3 choices, and the student could choose what to accept. Another important note is that we only need to apply to a program code once. For example, say a student is interested in sociology, political science, history. All of those options fall within our Faculty of Social Science. So you actually only need to submit to that program once, and you could choose other choices, say for the Faculty of Arts or Science or so on, because a student is being admitted to the faculty level. The OUAC will ask the student to select a subject of major interest, but that is just an indication of what the student thinks they want to study. They're not tied to that option because they don't actually choose their major until the end of first year, going into their second year. On OUAC, Western does have a couple unique options or checkboxes for Ivey Advanced Entry, which I previously mentioned, and for Scholars Elective, which is a program for top-reaching students looking for more research and mentorship opportunities. If a student is interested in either of these options, they should select the Yes button, because that will indicate that they plan to fill out the supplemental form for those two options on our website. The final stage is to review and submit, and that will send the application to Western. In a few business days, typically 2 to 5, the student would receive an email to whatever application email address is used to set up their Western Student Center and give them their student number. This leads into our almost last section, which is the Western Student Center. So this is where all the documents will be submitted to assess an applicant. The email that a student receives would look something like this, giving them their student number and telling them to set up their Western Student Center account. Using the student number and the OUAC reference number that is given to them when they submit the application, those two pieces of information are needed to set up the account. When you log in, it will look something like this. It will have all the program choices listed. You can see the different letters. Excuse me. It will have the to-do list of the documents that need to be submitted in order to assess that applicant's file. You can see that the See Details button will open up and show something like this. So depending on what curriculum and country that student is studying in, each checklist will look a little bit different. So this is an example of some of the things that might be asked for, as well as what it would look like. So it would have a description of the item and say how it needs to be submitted. Everything can either be uploaded or it's a digital form that can be filled out. If the item is missing, we don't have it. If it's pending, it means you've submitted it, but our admissions team has not yet reviewed it. And if it's received, it means we've looked at it and it's what we need to assess the applicant's file. The submission date is a recommended date, not a hard deadline. Documents submitted after this date will still be reviewed. In terms of the upload feature, the upload only allows you to submit something once. So it's important to upload all files at the same time. So if you need to combine them into a document, for example, in order to upload that file. When a student receives a decision, it will be communicated here as well. You can see the offered admission, the green check mark, and the accept decline button. This button will take you back to the OUAC Application Center, as that's where a student would need to officially accept or decline their offer. You can also see there's a new outstanding admissions condition panel. This is where any final conditions that need to be satisfied will be listed. It's important to note that the to-do list will never disappear. It will just be marked as received, whereas the outstanding conditions will disappear once everything is satisfied. The final section is our choose.uwo.ca offer portal. So a student gets access to this portal when they receive an offer of admission. It will include all of their next steps that are important when considering accepting their offer, their final documents, their acceptance deadline, how to apply for scholarships, and more. The portal has tiles such as this that would show all of their letters. The letter of acceptance to initiate the study permit process is the last page of the offer of admission. That's important to note. And then you can see the admission conditions showing exactly what, for example, a student would need to meet average-wise and so on. It would also show the deadline that a student needs to accept by, which typically is May 1st. However, it depends on when the student received the offer, so it's important to check the individual deadline for the student. It will have all the next steps to be able to track them. So applying for study permit, planning housing, finances, courses, and so on. There's no deposit required to accept a Western offer. The first financial commitment would be in June to secure the resident spot. There's a $900 prepayment and questionnaire due to secure that spot. So that's an example of the offer portal and what that looks like. This final section is just some additional resources and information that might be helpful for you. There's a quick resource guide that links to our various websites for different topics that a student might be inquiring about. We have our performance site. So Western maintains these performance indicators, excuse me, for any program, department, or faculty that ranks in the top 200 in the world. This site will show what those programs are, so that if you have a student asking about a specific ranking for a specific program, you can use this as a tool to give them more information. For experiential learning, I mentioned that all programs offer different forms of experiential learning, such as co-ops and internships. These websites link to the information for the different faculties, since it does vary by faculty in terms of length and type of experience. The final piece here about tuition and scholarships. For tuition, for this current 2021-2022 academic year, tuition ranges from approximately 38,000 Canadian to 52,000 Canadian. Programs such as engineering and business are going to be on that higher end, with every other program being on the lower end. You can see an exact breakdown at the linked site there. And again, we'll share these slides after today. And you can see a fees and living expense for international students, which will also show you the costs of living both on campus and off campus to get a full sense of the total costs a student might have to incur. Going alongside that, our scholarships. We have three main categories of scholarships for international students. The first is our automatic admission scholarships. These a student does not need to apply for. They're automatically considered. The final amounts will be determined in the coming weeks, but last year they ranged from 2,500 Canadian to 8,000 Canadian based on a student's final average. Our International President's Entrance Scholarship, that's the one valued at 50,000 Canadian. There's 3 of those available, and the application for that is due February 14th. The final category is our Western International Scholarships. These are valued at 25,000 Canadian, and there's 10 of these available. This one also does not require a separate application. Students are automatically considered when they apply. Beyond that, we have scholarships and bursaries that students may be eligible for depending on their specific situation, as well as on-campus paid work positions that students can choose to apply for. For the International President's Entrance, that one looks for strong academics, as well as extracurriculars and leadership, and requires a nomination from the student's school, so a reference letter nomination. With that, just a couple notes here in terms of filling out the release of information on the student's Western Student Center, and that just saying that there's no way to indicate an agency application on the OUAC website. So what we do is tag the application in our system by receiving a weekly list from the agency with the information, first name, last name, and OUAC reference number. With that, I know that was a lot of information to cover. Hopefully I answered most of your questions, but I'm happy to take any questions that people have at this time. I'll just take a look in the chat here. If a student didn't apply for AEO after high school, can they apply for Ivey after completing 2 years at another university? Yes, they can. So that process, you'd want to talk with Ivey directly in terms of like our agreement wouldn't cover applying to Ivey because it's not a first entry program, but certainly students can apply to Ivey completing 2 years of university at Western or 2 years of university elsewhere, internationally or otherwise. How long to get offer letter after completing online application? Typically, once all documents are received and the application is ready for a decision, it can take anywhere between 3 to 6 weeks, depending on the time of year. So the earlier you apply, the faster that we can process applications. The busiest time of year tends to be February, March. Any other questions at all? Those are the ones that I can see came through the chat there. An example of a student who receives the international scholarship, his or her GPA and outstanding background. I don't know the specifics in terms of average. Typically, we say students with a 90% average plus are competitive to apply because they're taking into account, average or GPA and background. We have students who have been involved with their school in terms of a lot of extracurriculars, student unions, student clubs. We've had other students who maybe started their own business in high school. Some students are exceptional athletes. Some students, are involved with their community. It really ranges. We encourage, students to apply if they're interested and they have that reference from their school. There's no harm in applying for that option. Any other questions?
Hi, Kate. Could you please advise us about the WES when we complete the online application and receive the LOA?
Sorry, could you repeat that?
WES.
Oh, the WES, yeah.
Yes.
So WES is not required for the initial evaluation. So that is World Education Service, the verification service is not something that we would require at the time of admission. If a student receives an offer, that is when, depending on the curriculum, that we would require a WES report to be completed and sent to Western to verify their final documents, such as if they're completing Vietnam national curriculum and other curriculums, depending on what they're studying. It would be a condition of their offer to have their finals sent through that service. But for the evaluation, it does not need to be sent through that.
Thank you. So after a student receive the conditional offer letter, they need to send all of the document to WES and then receive the official LOA. Yeah.
Correct. Yes. And it would say, it would specifically say, I believe it's like the WES ICAP document by document, it would say what report we require. And then the WES website would indicate the documents that need to be sent in order to get that report that we require.
And how about IELTS certificate? Does it need to be sent directly to the test center, to the school address?
Yes. So IELTS can be sent to Western directly from the testing center electronically.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. I see a couple more questions came in. So if the student is accepted to Ivey AEO, is it guaranteed their place at Ivey? So how that works is there's certain requirements that student would need to maintain in their first 2 years of university. They would need to maintain an 80% average across their first 2 years. They would need to continue involvement with extracurriculars throughout those 2 years. And there's a mandatory business class in second year called Business 2257 that the student would need to achieve a 70% in. There's a few other course requirements for whatever program they apply to, But as long as they maintain all those academic requirements, then their spot is saved for third year. Can we send graduate students to Western or only undergraduate? At this time, our agreement is solely for undergraduate students. However, for our Western English Language Center, if you're sending them for the ESL program, that is eligible regardless of undergrad or graduate studies following that. Any other questions?
The Western University accepts also students who graduated directly from Canadian high school. And I wonder if our partner can receive the commission for onshore students.
Yeah, so as long as those students are international, it's not necessarily our priority in terms of looking for growth and diversity from other countries, since those students located in Ontario or Canada typically find us or apply, or they're familiar with Western, but certainly if you are helping students in that situation, it is eligible, yes.
Thank you for your confirmation.
Thank you. Any other questions at all? Okay. I don't have the specific rate of admission to Western, as it does vary, by program. Those average guidelines are the best tool to use, because historically students with those averages are admissible to the program. In terms of like seats available, or the class size that we're looking for, it depends on the program. The highest is typically science and social science, looking about kind of 800 students in each of those faculties. But programs such as arts might be looking for about 200 students. So it does range in terms of the number of students within each program. And certainly we extend more offers than seats available. So can an international student who's already graduated high school in British Columbia apply to Bachelor of Nursing in Western? If yes, do you have any special admission requirement for this course? So international applicants can apply for nursing, but it's important to note that there is very limited seats available. There's typically about 4 spaces, so it's going to be highly competitive. I would encourage them, if they are interested, we do have 2 sites for nursing. We have our Western site and our Fanshawe site. By applying to both, it's going to increase your chances because we accept 125 students total at each. But again, there's no special admission requirement, but there's prerequisite courses and there's very limited seats for international applicants, unfortunately. That's the only program that has limits on capacity for international applicants. You're welcome. Any other questions? Give it another minute or two if anyone's typing.
May I know how about the study mode for the September 20 and 22 intake?
How many, which
How
sort?
about the study mode, online or in person or hybrid?
We're hoping it can be in person. For this current year, we're primarily in person right now. There's some hybrid for this current year, just for larger lectures, some of those are online, but most of the tutorials and the labs and the smaller classes are all in person. So we're hopeful and planning for a fully in-person semester for fall 2022.
Great, thank you.
So the question about high school graduation national examination. So it's something that we would require to see, but at the time of admission for students who are in progress, they wouldn't have that. So it might just be a condition in the offer saying they need to submit those national examination results when available, just more of a check to see that they completed it and, you know, successfully did so. No, for undergraduate programs, they all accept international students. Nursing, that is that only one that's more limited. If the student applies in October and they haven't gotten their year 12 record, can they still submit? In terms of submitting the transcript, we would need some form of in progress grade 12 mark in order to assess the applicant. You can still submit the application in October and kind of get it started, but the actual transcript that we would need to see, they don't need to have completed grade 12, but we need some form of midterm marks or some form of in progress grade 12 mark for our admissions team to see. There would no, so for the national examination, it would not list like a minimum mark they need to obtain. No, it would just be completion of it, like successful completion of it. You're welcome. Lots of good questions coming in. Anything else at all? So there's, the question is about King's University, Russia, and Huron. So those are our 3 affiliate university colleges. They are separate from Western in terms of the information I'm giving you today is about main campus, and the agreement that I'm speaking of is for main campus. Those 3 colleges, they're still within walking distance of main campus. You still get a Western degree, but they operate like mini campuses. So they specialize in certain programs, more liberal arts. They offer business. They have some unique programs, but they do have their own admission processes, services, residences, and so on. So if students are interested in programs at those locations, that's possible, but just note that the information that I'm giving you today is for the main campus programs. The next one here, I'm just going to stop sharing. So the next link, I'm just going to open this up. Yeah, so both the Fanshawe and Western programs can be applied to on the OUAC website. Essentially, how it works is it's the exact same program. There's just 125 students start at Fanshawe College, 125 start at Western, just to increase the number of students who can study nursing, because it's very hands-on. They need the facilities. But in year 3, yes, all students would be at Western for years 3 and 4. So it's essentially, there's 2 different sites that a student could start their first and second year at. In terms of our agreement, nursing is not commissionable as part of it, just because there is so limited space. So certainly if you have students that are interested in nursing, you can help direct them, but it is going to be a highly competitive process just because of such limited spaces. The next question, if the student wants to apply for Ivey, can you suggest which program the student should take in their first 2 years at Western to smoothly apply to Ivey after that? So students can truly take anything they want. There's no preference given to one program over another. Students from arts, science, media, social science, all go on to Ivey. If a student, however, is looking for a business option because that's what they're interested in, our management and organizational studies program is the business program we offer that students could start in from high school. They choose an area to specialize in, such as finance, accounting, human resources, and so on. So that is something that if business is their interest, they may opt to select that for years 1 and 2, but by no means does that increase their chances for Ivey. Ivey students come from a wide range of backgrounds, and that is encouraged for the program. The only mandatory course for Ivey is a second-year business class, which all students who want to go to Ivey would take. That's the course that will prepare them to transition smoothly. You're welcome. Any other questions? All right. Looks like we may be finished up with questions there.
I think we have there are no more questions for this session now. So I will stop recording. I will stop recording this presentation, and I will stop the training session today. Thank you so much for your time, Kate, and thank you so much for our partner time with us today, and maybe see you again by our next training session next time. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for having me. Enjoy your day, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good day. Have a good night, Kate. Thank you for your time today. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you.